Behold, the unanimously beloved 2x2 base. There's lots of variations to this base. Today I'm going to show you my design. The 2x2 is very simple. It's inexpensive. It's quaint in size. And it's relatively strong when it's upgraded. Some notable qualities of my variation is space efficiency, unrestricted movement, and an upgraded airlock. There's 3 core aspects when you're building a 2x2, and we're going to go over all of them. A wood 2x2 built to spec, just like this here, is going to cost you roughly 6,700 wood. The TC upkeep is going to be around 450 wood per day. It's pretty tough to gather all those resources solo, especially on a lot of high pop servers. So what I typically do is rather than trying to save all the resources to build a 2x2, I'll actually build a 1x1. Simply an airlocked 1x1 can serve as a really safe place to depot your resources until you have the means to build the 2x2. A 1x1 built to spec will cost you just over 4,000 wood, and that's with TC doors and everything. Come take a look. It's also worth noting a 1x1 in the area makes for a really good flank base. Once you've found a good spot and a safe time to build, you're ready to go. So the way I do this is I always start with the walls and the foundations first. So pretty simple. 4 foundations, triangular airlock. Now, I told you there was 3 really important qualities when you're building a 2x2. This little trick will save you a lot of time down the road. So if you're planning on honeycombing your base in the future, just go around the base with a triangular foundation and make sure that you have the room to do so. If you're building blocked by the topography, it'll let you know right away and you won't waste resources building a base here. Once you have your foundations down, it's best to put walls up first. I try and get walls and foundations down as quick as I possibly can because it's a lot easier for 1 person to get into your base than it is for 2. Upgrade your walls, upgrade your foundations, and try and get your doors on as quick as you possibly can. This way, you don't have to worry about someone running into your base or killing you while you're under construction. Now, I mentioned airlock is probably one of the most important aspects on a 2x2, and we're about to go over this in detail right now. One more helpful aspect to this base is I always make a little porch. All this is going to do is reduce any possible chance of you clipping your doorway if you're running in under pressure or something. Once you've got your walls up, make sure you put a roof on. Don't forget your triangular airlock. It's very important as well. Now you don't have to worry about even 2 people getting in. Once you've got the basics down, you can place your TC. I like to place mine in the back left corner as follows. Put it as far up against the wall as you can. Make sure you place it correctly the first time. Like that. Should be good. This is the importance of a proper airlock in this game. If you only have 1 exterior door, you're putting yourself at a huge risk of someone just shooting you and running into your base. You just lost your base. Simply adding a second door to this isn't going to defeat the ability for someone to go deep on you. You have to ensure that the doors are placed correctly. Positioning your airlock doors correctly is crucial. The solution to this is incredibly simple. All you have to do is face your inner airlock door towards the exterior door. What that'll do is it'll open into the doorway, which will block someone from rushing inside of your base. Now, someone could still get in by destroying your inner walls. However, it's going to buy you a lot of time. Having an airlock designed this way is going to help you out so much, especially playing solo. Now, there's a few tricks you can do to really abuse this. Now, if someone is door camping you and they're close enough, you can always tell by placing a campfire. Turn this on, and normally, if you're sitting here by yourself, you're going to get a max of 50 comfort. If someone's sitting outside your walls, you're going to have more, 75 for example. As you can see, the player's in close enough proximity that it's giving me extra comfort. An easy way to tell someone's camping you. Being that you're entirely aware that someone's outside your base, it's a lot easier to be prepared. So you open up your doors as following. You have a perfect shooting angle. Another important aspect you want to keep in mind, you're building your 2x2, is the gradient, topography of the map you're building on. Although you may be able to honeycomb, you know, one side of your base, you may be limited just one wall on the other. Don't let this happen. This can really screw you over in the long run, and it's always easy to check that little method I showed you. Now that we have this magnificent 2x2 started, we're going to start adding some functional upgrades to it. First thing I recommend is adding a half wall, or a series of both, rather, right here. What it's going to do is rough in a loot room for future use. You don't need large boxes right off the bat, but this is going to provide a place we're going to store everything. Now, there's lots of different styles to doing a loot room. This is just, again, my way of doing it. You're definitely going to want to put a sleeping bag down as soon as you possibly can. And the next thing I like to get is a furnace. You need a furnace to get frags in order to upgrade your doors and to get some workbenches going. I like to place mine near the door. You can put yours anywhere you want. Upgrade your base to stone as soon as possible, especially the ceilings. People can look right through the cracks and see where your TC is. This process should cost you around 5,000 stone in its entirety, but it's going to protect your base a lot. Just upgrade everything you can afford to, starting with the exterior walls first and working your way inward. As soon as your base is stone, upgrade your doors to metal as soon as possible. Make sure you face them correctly so you can use this like a proper airlock. This amazing 2x2 in its current spec, fully upgraded to stone with 2 metal doors. Your daily TC on a vanilla server is going to be about 700 stone and just over 30 metal. Inevitably, you're going to want to get a workbench down as quickly as possible. This spot near the front door is perfect. Following that, you're going to want to place some boxes down to store your loot. Now, there's lots of different styles and variations to this part specifically. I'll show you a few. This is the way that I do it specifically. For example, this is the 7-box loot room variation. Now, this is very space efficient. However, this can take an enormous amount of time to set up properly. And Facepunch just keeps making this more difficult. We're not sure why. The way that I set up my loot room, it's kind of a combination between time efficiency and space efficiency. I want to be able to access my boxes quickly, but also keep them organized and space efficient as possible. So this is how I set mine up. I use a combination of small boxes, large boxes, and barbecues. This is how you want to set yours up. Now the top row, I kind of like to push this all the way back. And I'll show you this in the future why we're doing it this way. So place your box on the furthermost right side. Next step, you're going to place a barbecue. And you're going to rotate it so it opens away from the first box. Just like this, okay? Now you want to place this as close to the middle box as possible. Next step is a small box. Again, place it underneath the barbecue as close to the other box as possible. Just like that. Next box. Just jam it into the far left side. Far back corner as you can. Boom. All right, now for the bottom, I do it a little bit differently. The reason being, you won't be able to access the far back corners of this bottom loot room if you jam these things all the way up to the back. So I like to pull them forward a little bit. So I'll show you why I do this in later on in the video. But anyway, moving forward, we're going to put this box right here. Barbecue in the middle. Same way as the top. Small box underneath the barbecue. Same way as above. And last box. Done. Now, the reason I place these ones further is because I'm going to place large boxes on the ground here. And if you plug this up, you won't be able to actually access these boxes in the back if they're pushed all the way to the wall. The next step we're going to do is we're going to rough in some door frames. Once you're at this step at your base, the single most valuable thing you can find is a garage door. A garage door is really going to increase the cost to raid this base because right now it's just 2 metal doors to get inside or a stone wall. We're going to improve that very shortly. This is the first step. Add a couple wall frames. What this is going to do is just allow you to place a garage door when the time comes. if you really want, and if you're feeling threatened in the area, you can definitely place double doors down. However, it's going to limit your time efficiency able to run in and out of the base. Once you have a basic loot room established, I like to add a second one here near the entrance of the base that serves as more of a purpose for storing lower quality loot, primitive armor, primitive weapons, recyclables, food, stuff like that. I use a metal shelf to do this. Place it as far into the back corner as you can. Try and make sure it's square as well, because this will eventually impact your movement going in and out of this doorway here if you do not. This should be good here. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Place the boxes here as far to the left wall as possible. This one on the bottom right is the one you really want to hug the other box as much as possible. And that again is to prohibit any restriction of you coming in through this airlock here. Last box, top right. So the way I lay this out, I put primitive gear, bottom right, weapons, top right, recyclables, top left, food, seeds, tools and such, bottom left. If you've placed your boxes correctly, you should have no issue whatsoever running through this doorway. Once you find garage doors, get them up as soon as possible. This is the single best upgrade you can make in the game. It really makes your base a lot stronger. Make sure you lock them. The last one, you likely will have to replace your bag, but a minor setback. Now with the garage doors up, we can add a little more storage on the ground. I'll place one more large box right here, up against the TC. Probably get rid of the small box. I like to place my meds in this one right here beside the TC. Should have room for one more right here. Now, if you decide to, you can add more storage space on the top here. You can also add a small box here. But if you'll notice, you can still access all of these boxes really quickly and easily, just at a glance. You don't have to crawl under anything or squeeze into anything. Really quick and easy. Last thing I like to do, I like to place my bag right here. This way, you're not placed, if things do go south, you are going to spawn further back into your base where you have direct access to your high-quality guns instead of at a glance. At arm's reach! I meant. You know what I'm saying? All right. So this base in its current spec with the added upgraded doors, 750 stone and 150 metal per day. The problem is, even with garage doors, this is still a relatively cheap and easy raid. All someone has to do is throw some satchels on your walls and they're in and out really quickly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to honeycomb the base to make sure that doesn't happen as quickly. We're going to add a second layer to the exterior of this base, and no matter what someone uses, they're going to have to punch in twice. This next step is going to cost you just over 10,000 stone, but it's incredibly important. So we're just going to start honeycombing the exterior, just as I mentioned before. There's lots of different ways you can do this. I usually do it just bits at a time. I definitely don't suggest you go outside of your base with a pile of resources on you. Do it little bits at a time so you don't get killed and lose everything. But we're going to add the foundations first and go around and add the rest. I like to add a honeycomb on this doorway. You'll see eventually when we actually take this base to the next level in the next video. It's a very important to upgrade everything. So now that we have the foundations done, I'm going to add some floor triangles around the same way. All right, and now we're going to add some walls. You're amazed, I'm amazed, everybody's amazed. There's not much science to this, just continue it around the entirety of your base. And voila. Once you've done the walls, don't forget the ceiling, it's just as important. So we're going to go on the roof. You can just build a half wall on your door lock to go up. And make a half wall on the top. Now, a half wall is just as functional as a full wall. It just doesn't have as much as imposing look to it. Keeps your base looking small, low profile. That's the point of this base. You don't want to be, a big giant roof camping looking base. So the last step is really up to you. Some people like to block this off with a half wall. If you have the extra stone and wood, there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes I even do this and I upgrade it to sheet metal right off the bat. What this is going to do is if someone splashes your roof, they're not going to have full access and to go in. They're going to have to break through another one. So once you're done that, upgrade your walls, your floors, and your base should look something like this if you're done. Now, nobody can burst through your walls as easily. It's going to cost them a lot more to do so. It's actually doubling the price of the walls and making your base a much more expensive raid, thus less enticing to someone looking to raid you. Now, I'm not done talking yet, so listen up. Current state, with the upkeep, with everything we've done to the base to this point, it's 2,500 stone, 180 metal per day. Now, we're about to add a very serious airlock to the front of the base, and that's really going to complete it full circle. Now, follow along as we do this next part. Next step is as follows. We're going to walk out the front of the base, and we're going to start upgrading the front doorway. Basically discourage anyone thinking of door raiding us. This is going to make the base a lot more expensive, regardless of what kind of style or tactic they use to get inside. So we're just going to build a little bit of a circle around here. Now, you remember when I started building this base, I pre-honeycombed it. Now, I'll even sometimes pre-honeycomb the entire airlock, and that's just to make sure that I can build it out. This base is not exactly a very easy raid or defensible for that matter in its current state, so it's really important that you add this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to put 4 wall frames, and we're going to add some ceilings. The next step, if you probably already guessed, is we're going to add some more garage doors. At the very minimum, make all this stone. Eventually, we're going to metallize a lot of this down the road, but for now, it's just important to get this up. So looking at this right now, you're going to want 1 sheet metal double door. I like to use sheet metal double doors for my furthermost exterior. It's a lot quicker than opening a garage door, and you'll get yourself killed if someone's chasing you. You can use a single door if you want, but I just prefer a sheet metal double. Right here, we're going to put a shop front, as well as these 2 other sides. It's going to give us a lot more peripheral vision around our base, and a lot more security. Another thing you're going to want to do before you go back inside is rough in some wall frames for the garage doors we're about to add. This is all to add to the expense of somebody raiding your base, and to give you more vision and just an overall more secure profile on your base. Right now, you're going to want to make 4 garage doors, 1 sheet metal double door, and 3 shop fronts. Once you have everything crafted, place it down. Now, there's not really any correct or incorrect way to place these. It has the same durability. Some ways are a little more space efficient. I like to place them this way because you have a little more space on the side of the wall this way. Sheet metal door in the middle. Last one, out front. Garage doors. Last one. There it is. Now, once you have this magnificent airlock finished, one last step. A little further honeycombing of the roof, just so nobody can shortcut all the doors you just put up. It's a pretty simple process. You don't need to be super thorough with this. I just build half walls out to there. You can even extend it to the full duration. Sometimes I'll even go over this eventually, but at least to here is important. Otherwise, someone can just drop down 1 stone floor and they're past your doors. So at least this way you have 2 layers. So to this point, with a full stone honeycombing, with the full airlock, with full garage doors, our daily upkeep on a vanilla server is just over 3,000 stone and 550 metal. That's pretty strong, all things considered. That's just not exactly difficult to farm stone or find it anywhere else. So this is a pretty good expense considering how safe this base is now. On top of that, you have a lot of speed efficiency, time effectiveness, whatever you want to call it. You can get in and out of this base unrestricted really quickly. You can access all your stuff at a glance, at arm's reach very quickly. And it's also a very strong setup. Now, this still has a very low profile look on the map. Somebody walking by this base isn't going to go, oh wow, look at this gigantic base, let's raid it. You know, they're going to see a very small 2x2 that has a very quaint design that doesn't exactly look like it's holding a lot of loot or a lot of people. Little do they know. This is what the base should look like to this point. If you've made it this far, I'd highly suggest replacing your single sheet metal doors with garage doors at this point. I even use a double armored door for my core here, but replacing these to a double door or a garage door is going to allow you a lot more mobility and a lot more storage space down the road, as I'll show you. So with either a combination of metal picks or ideally a jackhammer, get rid of these single door frames and replace these with wall frames. With a jackhammer, this shouldn't take you any longer than 2 minutes per wall. It's actually a very quick process, relatively inexpensive. So once you've blasted out those door frames, add 2 more wall frames, upgrade, and add some more garage doors. You're definitely going to want to upgrade your level 1 bench, so get rid of it. Now, there's a trick to doing this. If you have the means to go right to level 3, or you've already created a level 3 bench using a level 2 that you found on the map, or if you're just trying to make a level 2 quickly and then make a level 3 right after, there's a bit of a trick you can use. Make a twig foundation. You can place a level 2 bench on it for a second. Use this to craft your level 3. And then demolish it. Done. Alternatively, if you already have a level 2 bench down here, you can jackhammer out the stone foundation. I always leave the stone foundation under a level 2 bench as stone, so I can get rid of it as such. You can't break a level 2 bench easily, but you can break out the stone foundation, replace it with another one, and then place the level 3 on top. Keep that in mind. In our case, we're going right to a level 3. So, place the level 3 bench as close to the left wall as you can. And you can then place your furnace next to it. You can also place a couple more along this wall, as well as a chair, which will benefit you a lot. There's a little storage trick you can use with level 3 benches. Most people already know it, but in case you didn't, all you need to do is place a small box underneath one side of the bench, such as this. Get your hammer and rotate it. Place one on the other side. Now you have 2 small boxes underneath. Worth noting, this does not work with a level 2 bench, only a level 3. One last thing I'd like to bring up is the chair VP and how to use it. If you get this early enough in the wipe, it's going to save you a ton of cloth and a ton of food. So just place it down anywhere in your base of this room. This is where I like to place mine. I typically place it next to a furnace or a campfire. All you got to do is ensure that you have 100 fed. Sit down in your chair and you'll notice you get 100 comfort. This is going to bring you to 100 health with no use of cloth or food or anything else. A really effective way of healing, and it'll save you a lot of stuff in the long run. I like adding a little bit extra storage wherever I can. So usually what I'll place on these walls are drop boxes. Sometimes you can place 1 or 2 on both sides here. Just place it anywhere you want. It's just basically an extra box. Now, at this point, you're definitely going to want to upgrade your walls. I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is. Upgrade these to armor if possible. If you can't afford armor, upgrade it to sheet metal. Definitely do your ceilings as armor because they can be splashed. Now again, if you have a level 2 bench here, you might want to hold back on upgrading this, but once you have a 3 down, at the very least, upgrade everything to sheet metal. That's going to make your base a lot more difficult to raid, and if someone does manage to break off your honeycombing, they're going to see an armored wall, and it's going to discourage them immediately from going further. I've been fail rated a lot, and a lot of people usually just stop immediately when they see armored walls, so it's something to keep in mind. You might have to move some boxes around for this part, so it's best to do this as early on as possible so you don't have to move loot on later on in the wipe. At the very least, try and do your TC area and then move outwards like this. I can also fit another drop box on this wall now that we're honeycombed. This will give you an extra bit of storage. Boom. I also like doing my wall frames to sheet metal. I've been splashed through ceilings, and HGLs, which are heavy grenade launchers, they do a lot of weird damage in this game, and sometimes it goes through walls, it goes through ceilings. It's worth spending the small bit of metal to upgrade these. You'd hate to lose all 4 doors in one explosion, so I recommend it. It's worth doing. Once you're in this airlock, definitely upgrade this as well. Full metal, People might try and shortcut through all your doors in your airlock by going through either your roof or your wall. So if you can afford to do this in armor, definitely do so. If not, do it with sheet metal. Work your way out accordingly. It's worth noting, none of this is exposed to the exterior. Anyone walking by your base right now, they're not going to see any of this armor. They're not going to see any of this metal. All they're going to see is a stone base with a little profile. But inside, it's a pretty tough nut to crack, as you can see. Now, no, I didn't mean to do that in armored, so don't unfollow the YouTube just yet. But, you know, everybody gets one. Now, this non-exposed area, I'd probably upgrade this to metal as well. Just again, less ability for someone to shortcut through your ceiling or your foundation and trying to skip through doors. Now, if you're wondering why I'm leaving this area blank and I'm not putting anything in this wall, you're going to see in how to bring a 2x2 to the next level what we place here. This is going to be where we place our large battery and other electrical components, and you want to leave this open for future use. So one last little recap of the base. As you can see, it's pretty quick to get in and out of, especially in a pinch. You don't have to jump in and around or any boxes or crouch or sneak in anything to access. It's pretty fast. And from the outside, this base does not have a high profile look. It doesn't look expensive. It definitely looks hard to raid from doors, but someone looking at this isn't going to say, oh, easy raid, we can just bust in through this wall, or so on and so forth. Regardless of which way they choose to do this, whether it's ceiling, walls, doors, it's going to be expensive. Now, the upkeep on this base in its relatively finished state is as follows. We've got an upkeep of 2,500 stone, 40 high qual, and less than 1,000 metal per day. This is, again, on a vanilla, so keep that in mind. But this is a relatively cheap base to maintain. I've used this base several wipes. It's always done me well. Again, it's very cheap and it's easy to use, and personally, I love it. I mean, there are some weaknesses to this base. Online raid defense can be very tricky. That's why I suggest having a flank base. It'll save your life often. And definitely get some traps and potentially even some turrets, as I'm going to show you in the next video, where we take a 2x2 to the next level.